Bonjour, mes amis, et bienvenue. Robert Desmarais of New Orleans here in the middle of January 2026. I know you may wonder why I started in French. It's mostly to annoy anybody who doesn't like languages other than English. Yes, I'm doing it to annoy people. Most people who are annoyed by languages other than English are super American types who think that English is the only language permitted in the United States. People like the ones who work for ICE, for example. Now, why don't I believe that? For one thing, I grew up in South Louisiana in a family that didn't speak English very well in my childhood. The younger family members have grown up with good knowledge of the language, but when I was little, many of the older ones didn't even speak it at all. My great-grandmother, for example, Amélie Comeau, couldn't understand or speak English. The family had been here for 300 years, but she had never bothered to learn English. She couldn't converse with her young great-grandchildren. Sometimes that led to funny moments in her house. One day, a young cousin and I were in the kitchen for breakfast. She came over to us and asked in French whether we wanted any more. My cousin said in English, enough, pronouncing it the usual way, enough. That sounds exactly like enough in French, but in French it means an egg. So she went to the stove and brought him back an egg. In other words, I grew up in a vigorous American family that spoke French. So for me, French is an American language. English is a second American language for me. In Louisiana, French is actually also an official language. Many of us say, and I include myself in that group, we're Creole or Cajun or Louisiana French, and therefore we're American. That's the essence of federalism. The U.S. is a federation of states and tribes and ethnic groups, not a nation with a single unitary identity. Our loyalty is to the Constitution that binds us together, not to a cultural tradition. Hello, ICE. As I see it, those who insist on English only are simultaneously proponents of a single identity in the United States. That's obviously impossible. Not only are the Creoles and Cajuns of Louisiana unable to point to England as our mother country, as some Anglophiles in New Orleans even are fond of putting it, but there are many groups around the country who can't identify as English speakers, either for cultural or racial or historical reasons. That would do violence to their own histories and identities, like American Indians or Hispanics. I've seen it happen in Louisiana. Many years ago, a young poet in Louisiana, who was born into a Cajun family, published a book of poems in which she wrote of her ancestors fleeing the tyranny of England in Acadia in the 18th century for the freedom of the United States. Now, this is a young Cajun person trying to blend the English tradition that was being imposed on her at school with the Cajun identity, which she brought to school from home. So she said that her Acadian ancestors had fled the tyranny of England in Acadia for the freedom in the United States. The problem there is that they didn't flee. They were thrown out by the English. It was a genocide. And the other problem is that there was no United States at the time. But this was her way of trying to fuse her identities without contradiction, rather than simply saying, it's all right to be Cajun, distinct from other Americans, because we share the Constitution. Now, this month, January 2026, we are witnesses to the climax of that sort of convoluted twist on American history. It's the most despicable conduct I have seen in my 83 years. There have been many despicable incidents during that time. The difference is at this time, agents of the United States government have been despicable on American soil. The Department of Homeland Security has sent its immigration and customs enforcement agents into many cities of the United States with the mission of threatening non-white, non-English, non-fundamentalist citizens. The ICE agents are badly trained, filled with personal anger, and prejudice against the citizens they intimidate. When I was little, in the French part of the Lake Charles population, where I grew up, we spoke of white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, or WASPs. They were white, English-speaking fundamentalists. And we said to ourselves that they were quite different from us. They didn't dance. They didn't drink. And we suspected that they didn't make love. But we never thought it necessary to imprison or execute or hurt them in any way. Now, to accomplish their mission, the WASP agents of ICE violate the Constitution that makes America the country it has been. They enter properties in violation of the Fourth Amendment. They say they will erase the voices of those who raise their voice against them, as I heard in one video. That's a violation of the First Amendment, not to say a violation of the Fourth Commandment. They've already killed 6 people we know of, and perhaps over 30 have died in their concentration camps. Governor Landry of Louisiana, unfortunately, along with the Republican representatives of the state, have supported this insurrection against the United States by ICE. It is unclear why so many officials and citizens of the United States prefer dictatorship in the name of super-Americanism. It seems to me that approximately 1/4 of the population of the country has opted for the MAGA form of patriotism. Fortunately, that is a minority, but it is an astute minority that has managed to concentrate power in its hands, and the other 3/4 are the minority that has never really mastered the power and wealth necessary to accumulate political office. It is worth mentioning that the wealthy of the United States have become autocratic and therefore anti-constitutional, and I would even say anti-American. Peter Thiel, for example, is always looking for the Antichrist, and one may wonder whether he is looking too far afield. Billionaires at Trump's inauguration spoke volumes by their presence, and Elon Musk, in his pursuit of the damages of Doge, wrote an entire encyclopedia. Between the billionaires and the racist WASPs, we now are threatened with decline of the American Republic. Now, what will I do? I could do what George Clooney and others have already done, like Albert Einstein, witnessing the rise of Nazism in Germany in the 1930s. I could leave the country. That may still be necessary, but I choose not to do that, at the moment at least. For now, I will work to save the Republic. I will find friends of the Constitution and work with them to reinstate its influence with Indivisible and Move On and many other similar groups. It is wiser, I think and hope, to take government back from the billionaires and racists. The only ones in the United States whose ancestors didn't do something like that are the native peoples. Everyone else is descended from someone who left another country to immigrate here. So immigration is not so ridiculous an idea. The billionaires and racists seem to share an important value. They seem to think they are God's chosen people. Now, last time I spoke with God, he didn't tell me he had chosen any group of people as his own. Nada, zilch, no group. He said we were all his children. So we are all children of God. It's time to give that idea of the chosen people a critical look, and I will do that in future videos. It's a subject we don't really like to talk about, even though it continues to dominate American politics in an unfortunately radical way. So for now, à la prochaine.